Good morning, Year 4, and welcome to day 1 of week 6. So today we begin a new unit, Unit 13, bar graphs. And your learning intention is I am learning how to make bar graphs with scales. Now, we did do some of this work in Year 3. We looked at picture graphs and we looked at simple bar graphs. So this is building on the knowledge that we have from Year 3. So hopefully this will be familiar to you. So if we have a look at the first question, 4 children went to look for butterflies. Hardeep uses a picture graph to show how many butterflies each child saw. So we have the children's name. We can see that each picture of a butterfly represents 1 butterfly. So that means that William saw 6 butterflies, Alicia 12, Tom 10, and Sophie 8. And if we count the butterflies, they will match with the numbers we have here. Now, a picture graph is a great way to show data. However, if William had spotted 106 butterflies and Alicia had spotted 112 butterflies, etc., then it would be quite difficult to represent that with each picture of a butterfly standing for 1 butterfly. It would be a massive picture graph and it would take quite a while to represent. So we can look at bar graphs. So if we look at this bar graph here, Hardeep has written each of the children's names underneath and he has used 1 square to represent 2 butterflies in the graph. So I know that William has 3 squares, each of them represents 2, so 3 times 2 is 6. So I know from this graph, William saw 6 butterflies. 2, 4, 6. And I can read the rest of the graph in the same way, knowing that each of the squares represents 2 butterflies. Now, they're obviously all different coloured. That doesn't matter. It's the square that we are interested in. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Alicia saw 12 butterflies, and so on. So that's one way of representing them in a bar graph. Miss Scott, his teacher, uses another way to show how many bar graphs they saw. How many butterflies they saw. So the number of butterflies again can be read from the graphs below. And you'll notice that this time we have a scale up the side of the bar graph. We're not saying that there are squares that represent 2 butterflies as Hardeep did in the previous bar graph. Again, we have the children represented along the bottom axis, and that's labelled children, so that we know what this information represents. And then on the other side of the graph, we have it labelled as number of butterflies, and then we have a scale, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So I know that if I look at the bar graph that represents what William saw, I follow that up to the top, and then I go along to look at the scale. I can see that he saw 6 butterflies. Again, Alicia, go all the way up to the top of the bar graph and then across to the scale, and that's 12. And you go straight across. You could use a ruler if you wanted to, and you can see Tom saw 10 and Sophie saw 8. And then this is the exact same information, just represented slightly differently. So instead of the name of the children along the bottom, we have the number of butterflies, and then the children are at the side. And the bar graphs are coming out horizontally rather than vertically, but it still represents exactly the same data. We still have a scale, and I know that if I follow the bar graph for William out and then come down to look at the scale, following that line straight down, it's still 6. So this is just a different representation of exactly the same information. So let's have a look at another bar graph. So this bar graph shows the following information. Jack has 6 toy cars, Millie has 8 toy cars, Ty has 12 toy cars, and Ella has 2 toy cars. Some of the information is missing. So pause the video and have a go at filling out these missing information, and we'll go through the answers in a second. So hopefully you were able to realise that the bottom axis of the graph is representing the children. So we have 2 children's names missing. We have Millie, we have Ty, but we're missing Jack and Ella. And if we look at the bar graph, we can see that this bar represents a child who has 6 toy cars. So if we go back to the initial information, Jack has 6 toy cars. So I know that Jack is the name for this bar graph. The other one represents 2 toy cars. So we know that that's Ella. And then if we look at the scale, we can work it out. 2, 4, 6, blank 10. So we know that they're going up in 2s. So this is 8 and this is 12, and we can double check that. Millie has 8 toy cars and Ty has 12 toy cars. So here is another bar graph. It represents the types of objects that the children are folding using paper. So we have the number of each type of object that they made along the bottom here, but the bar graph is incomplete. It has been completed for aeroplanes. So the bottom is representing the types of object, and then we have the scale up the side. You will need to pay attention to what each of the markings on the scale represents, so that when you come to complete this for the missing objects, you know what the scale is and how tall you need to draw your graph. So pause the video in a second and have a go. Aeroplanes is already completed. Have a look at the scale, work out what each marking represents, and then fill in the bar graph for the balls, the boats, the cranes, and the frogs using this information. So pause the video and have a go at that now. So hopefully your bar graph looks like this. We are able to see that the scale, each marking represents 3 of the objects. So paper balls is 15. So we need to draw our graph to meet the line of 15, and so on. Boats 21, cranes 12, and frogs 6. So here are the questions for today. They are practice 1, pages 63 to 69 from the practice book that you would have filled in school. There are a variety of questions. We have a picture graph here, and you need to use that information to create a bar graph. You already have the axes have been labelled for you, so you know that the number of kites is going to be represented up the side and the shape of the kites along the bottom. Now this is the same example as we saw in the first question. We don't have a scale at the side because each square stands for 4 kites. So you will need to work out how many squares you need to represent each of these. Now, if you look at the bottom here, each kite stands for 2 kites. So if I was filling in the questions for this, I would be working out how many kites are represented in the picture graph first, maybe making a note of that in numbers down the side, before working out how many squares is going to be needed to represent each kite on the graph. And you have a number of questions that you need to fill in where you are looking at picture graphs, filling in missing information, and then drawing a bar graph. So have a go at those questions. You've got quite a few. And once you reach this question, you should make sure that the video is paused because the answers will be provided on the next slides. So if you can complete the work first and then unpause the video, check your answers, and if you've gone wrong anywhere, use the answers to help you purple polish. If you're still not sure about where you've gone wrong, don't upload the whole amount of the work, but you can put a question on and a teacher will come back and they'll be able to go through where you've gone wrong. So pause the video now, complete the work, and then I'll reveal the answers for you to unpause.